Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Bad Moms in Business.
I'm Bridgette Robertson.
I'm Amanda Sharp.
I'm Danielle Monahan.
How are you guys doing this week?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm really good because I'm just loving Bridget's sweater.
She's so bright, so colorful.
So if you go to church with me, you saw this on Sunday.
But they won't really see it until Thursday. It's fine.
Don't worry. I did wash it. It's clean. But it just makes me so happy. And it's gray and nasty outside. So I need all the sunshine I can get.
Listen,
Yes.
I don't have a colorful wardrobe. This is about as colorful as it gets, and I am loving that sweater
Thank you.
so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's so on brand for us.
I feel like I have the perfect earrings to match it.
Your cotton candy.
Yes.
Yes.
The sherbet ones. Oh my gosh. I'm going to see if my friend can whip me up another pair. She's in Oklahoma, so let me work on that.
Oh, listen.
Because
If that happens,
oh my gosh, it will happen. It might not be the exact same shape, but girl, you're getting those earrings.
I am so excited. And then I will wear this again on the podcast and they're going to say, we get it, Bridgette. We get it. You like this.
It's going to be fantastic. And they're wooden ones. So even though they're big, they're super light.
I
didn't
love
know they
a
were
wooden earring. I love a wooded wooded.
Girl, I can't wait. Oh, Chrissy, I'm ordering a pair. Yay!
Fun.
That is fun.
I love it. Oh gosh, I
So
love
boring,
supporting
guys.
businesses. So this is
Mhm.
great.
Yes.
Oh, I love it because we got our mugs, our awesome mugs from a business that we can
Don't have
support.
it today.
I know, me either today. It's
Mine's at
safely in the
home.
cabinet. That's okay. That's okay. Well,
Mine's being
today-
washed, so I use it a lot.
Important.
I washed mine to bring back
Aw.
today.
Mm,
Didn't do
didn't
it.
happen.
Grace, mamas, grace. We will give ourselves grace, which I think is a great way to segue into our topic this week, giving
Yes.
ourselves grace, because this week we're talking about a very heavy topic and
Mhm.
slightly taboo, according to society sometimes, but infertility.
Mhm.
And I'm excited to speak about this, or hear you guys rather speak about it, because I personally didn't necessarily struggle with infertility. And I'm not saying that to gloat or brag. It just was not something that happened. Owen was just a beautiful surprise after 5 years of marriage. We were like, what? How did that happen? And so to hear the other part of the story that's on the complete other spectrum of that scale, it's so important to me. So thank you guys both for opening up about this, because I know both of your journeys are a little bit different, but
Mhm.
the heartstrings attached to that journey are just, I'm sure, the same.
For
Yeah,
sure.
for sure. It's a tough
So,
topic, so
so
you
the
know.
floor is yours, ladies, and I will interrupt with any questions that I have, because there probably will be many.
Yes. I guess I'll start.
Yeah.
So, this is something that a lot of people don't know. I haven't really talked about it a whole lot, but I do think it is important to talk about because it's not something to be ashamed of or something that you should hide. My husband and I, we struggled to get pregnant. We didn't entirely know what was going on of why we weren't. But we tried for about a year. And then I went in to see the doctor and she was running some tests and trying to figure some stuff out and really decide if it was going to be like a me issue or a him issue, something like that. And I went in for an ultrasound and they found some polyps on my cervix. And so she was like, okay, well, this is not a great sign. These things can be cancerous and stuff. So we really are going to have to schedule surgery. Like, I need you to stop trying to have a child right now. We got to put this on pause.
Mm.
She originally put me on medication to help shrink the polyps down to see if that would eliminate them. And so I was put on this medication, which for the life of me, I can't remember the name of it, but it doesn't matter anyways. I'm not a professional medical doctor or anything like that. So I'm not here to give advice about that. But so I was put on this medication for 3 months, and she said it was kind of like a combination of tricking your body into thinking that you're pregnant and kind of going through menopause at the same time. So she was like, you could have serious weight changes. She
Mhm.
said you could gain a ton of weight. You could lose a ton of weight. You can be very irritable, hormonal, you
Mm.
name it, tired, exhausted, the whole nine. She was like, it's going to be a rough 3 months, prep your support team about what's going on and kind of let them know. And so I just told, I think it was really just my mom and Brandon at that time that I told, and I was like, okay, I'm really going to, keep myself in check. I told them to keep me in check. Luckily, I had some symptoms, but it wasn't anything drastic. So, knock on wood, that wasn't that bad. And then after the 3 months, they checked again, and some of the polyps had disappeared, and then some of them still got bigger. So she was like, "Okay, surgery is now the only option." This long story short to say, I had to have surgery. When they got in there, they realized that both of my fallopian tubes were completely closed off. They were clogged of some sort. She could not tell me how or why. I do have very, very slight endometriosis, and so she was kind of wondering if it was associated with that. And so they ended up having to do a little bit more of an invasive surgery than I was originally led on to. I thought we were just going to be doing like a little clean out of the polyps and stuff. But they ended up having to unstick my fallopian tubes. And she even said, I think it was on my right one, because that's where I have like the biggest scar, that they were struggling very, very hard while they were in surgery. And once they finally popped through, she said the entire surgical team kind of did a little happy dance because they
Ah!
didn't actually think that they were going to get it. And so she was really excited that they did it. And then after that, I still wasn't allowed to continue trying. We had to wait for the results back on the polyps and stuff, and they came back not with the greatest news. It wasn't the way that she phrased it was, it's not cancerous, it's just one stage below that. So she said, we got everything, but you're going to have to be routinely
Mhm.
checked for this moving forward until we make sure that everything was fine and that nothing's going to come back. She did attack a little bit of the endometriosis while she was in there. I guess she could like burn parts of it off, but part of it was so close to, was it a fallopian tube? Something like that, that she couldn't, maybe it was part of my kidney. I wonder if it was my ureter, but she couldn't get too close to something
Sure.
to get that, because she was afraid she was going to mess something else up. So she ended up not doing that. But after we got the green light from that, we were able to start trying again, and we got pregnant after, I think, 3 months, 2 months. So it's a little bit of an uphill battle, but but we got there.
Well, and think like once your body could actually have a chance at pregnancy, it was
Hmm.
able to do what it needed to do. And I loved that they had like that like celebration because I
Yeah.
think at that moment they knew what that meant for you.
Yes,
You
for
know,
sure.
that they were in the job of making that happen for you. And
Yes.
oh my gosh, to have that visual, like how fun.
I know. It was a big it was a scary thing to happen, especially
Mhm.
not really telling anybody.
Yeah.
And kind of going through that. I mean, I can remember leaving the doctor's office. I went by myself because I was like, oh, I'm, 20 something years old at the time. And I was like, oh, I'm going to be fine. And maybe I was 30. I honestly don't even
Danielle
remember.
fashion.
But I was like, oh, it'll be fine. So I went to the doctor's office, to get the results by myself and stuff. And she told me, like, it's not the greatest news. Like, we're going to have to keep an eye on it. And it was, yeah, it was a struggle. But and then I was put on that same medication after the surgery as well for another 3 months to make sure nothing would regrow. And then I had to be checked again before I could actually start. That's what it was. So it was a very long process for me. But in comparison to a lot of other people, it was very smooth sailing.
But still
Interesting.
your journey and your story
Yes.
and oh,
Yes. It just it the day that we found out that we were pregnant was hands down the
do
greatest day of my life. It was
you
like,
have a recording of that?
I don't know, because it was such like, people didn't even know that we were trying.
Yeah,
Nobody knew anything. We were just
yeah.
keeping it to ourselves. So I just, oh my gosh, we didn't tell anybody for such, I mean, obviously I told my mom. It was ridiculous. So this is just side tangent of how I told my mom and Brandon that I had taken the test, because I had taken a test before the month prior, and I got a positive. And I don't know if maybe it was really early and I lost the baby, or if it was a false negative, because apparently my pregnancy tests after all of this stuff going on had expired, and I didn't know that. So it's possible it was just a false positive. But I got everybody all excited. I put it in like a little box for Brandon. I gave it to him like that, like it was this whole thing. And then I wasn't pregnant. so, so for this round, when I actually found out that I was pregnant the month later, I, I literally went and took the test in the middle of the day, mind you, which you're supposed to take it like first thing in the morning, especially when you're only like 3.5, 4 weeks pregnant. Like it was very, very early. And I took the test in the middle of the day. I was like, there's no way it's going to be positive. And I saw immediately that second line show up. And I walk out of the bathroom. I'm on the phone with my mom at the time. And Brandon's standing right there. And I was like, I just took another test and I think I'm pregnant. Like that's how it happened.
Romantic.
Yeah. It was ridiculous. So that's my story.
Oh, Bridgette.
Hello.
How's your
So
story? Oh,
mine is different, a little bit. So I have always had super, super irregular periods. Like, some people are like clockwork and they can time them and they know the exact day and hour in which it will come. Never, never, ever. It would be every 2 months, every 3 months, every week. There was no rhyme or reason. And so from a fairly young age, I kind of had the thought that maybe pregnancy would not be easy for me. Chris and I got married and immediately just went off birth control and thought, if it happens, it happens. I don't know that I was quite ready, but Chris was, and I thought, again, like it's probably not going to be super fast. So let's just try this. And it was not super fast. And for those of you that maybe haven't struggled with infertility, you don't know this, but you have to wait an entire year from trying to get pregnant and being unsuccessful at it before you can go and see a specialist.
That must feel like eternity.
It's torture.
And especially when you know that it's just not going to happen, right? Like my body is not going to do this by itself and you're going to make me wait a year. Okay. I have PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome, that comes with lots of cool side effects like trouble losing weight, trouble getting pregnant, hair growing in places you don't want it to grow. Like it's a real sexy disease. And there's so many people that have it. So I know for a fact that someone listening totally understands.
For sure.
So anyway, after a year of trying and failing and trying and failing, we finally get to go see a doctor and he says, yep, you have PCOS, and they looked at my ovaries. They could tell from that. And they started to put me on Clomid, and Clomid, you can only take it up to a certain dose. So it was another full year of taking Clomid month after month after month after month and getting negative pregnancy tests month after month after month after month. And the last time they put me on Clomid, it was the highest dosage you can take. And we were going to be talking most likely next about IUI, which is not IVF. That's a whole different thing. And we're not going to get into that. I think we've talked about maybe having someone come on and talk about the specifics of this stuff. But so anyway, last round, I got an HCG injection as well. And I will never forget, we were supposed to be going up north with Chris's family for, I don't know if it was the 4th of July, what it was for, but we were supposed to be going up north. And they all knew that at this point that we had been trying for this long. And there was a schedule, right? Like when you are trying for a baby and you have all of these medical interventions, they say, okay, great. Now go home and have sex.
Talk about sexy.
Yeah.
Very clinical.
Yeah. Monday and Wednesday, maybe twice a day on Wednesday if you want, whatever. I'm just making it up, but there's a schedule. And so this schedule was going to interfere with the weekend away that we were having.
Of course.
And I'm just going to say it here on this podcast. Chris's grandma was like, I don't know that I'm comfortable with you guys coming up north. Because we were all going to be under one roof. And
listen, you guys want a baby or no? Like, this is sorry.
Um, so silly. But we did end up going up north, and that is the weekend I happened to conceive Aaron. So it
Oh
was
my God.
the very last try with Clomid, and up north making everybody uncomfortable, even though again, sex on a schedule is not like wild. Nobody heard a thing.
My God. This is my favorite conversation we've ever had to date. Right here, this exact moment.
Funny is it's fantastic and it's not awkward at all. Like I can't wait for people to hear this.
Oh,
This is the reality of
right?
people's lives when they're trying to conceive with intention, right?
Yeah,
So, oh
yeah.
my gosh, Bridget, that's a fantastic story.
Yeah, and then after getting pregnant, the weird thing about infertility and then getting pregnant is that you're very closely monitored.
Sure.
And so I knew at 4 weeks that I was pregnant, which is
Wow.
super early, super early. Um, and we did end up telling our family because I thought honestly they all know that we've been
Mm-hmm.
struggling this
Bound
whole
chicka
time.
bowing.
Exactly. So even if, God forbid, we lose this pregnancy, like they would know anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But that didn't end up happening. And again,
Mm.
2 years is a very long time, but it is in the grand scheme of things, a very short amount of time. And we are very fortunate because so many people are not.
Yes.
But that 2 years had to feel like eternity.
I will never forget a friend of mine announcing on Facebook that she was pregnant. And I felt like someone stabbed me. I was just like gut punched. Um, we had gotten married around the same time, and I grew up with her. And it's, it was heartbreaking. It was
Mm-hmm.
heartbreaking to go to the store and see pregnant women. It was
Yep.
heartbreaking to go to the OB for the 850th time to get my blood drawn and see pregnant women, knowing that I was sitting there not pregnant. It was just awful. It's awful.
And by no means did that mean that you weren't happy for that person, right? I mean, it hurt your personal heart.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah, and Danielle, I think you'll agree. I never wanted people to hide their happiness or their joy or their pregnancies from me.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I needed to be able to be a little selfish and grieve for myself. And I think you can hold
fair.
space to grieve and to be joyful for someone that you love at the same time.
Absolutely. I mean, I went through cases like that too, where my friends were ending up pregnant, and I was so elated for them and so excited. But at the same time, I would go home and cry.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a very contradicting feeling, and then you feel guilty for feeling upset, but then you just can't help it. It's such a natural thing. Of course, you're going to be sad about it. It's
Yeah.
very hard.
Now, Bridget, with your second child, though, I say second child because he's quite the force to be reckoned with, Mr.
Yes.
Cheese.
This is so true.
Was there as hard because they're not very far in age, so obviously that 2-year span didn't happen with him. How was conceiving your second child?
Oh no.
Well, I can distinctly remember telling my mom, sitting on my mom's couch crying, like, I don't know how people have two. This is so hard. I am so tired. Because Aaron was a terrible sleeper. Danielle, I know you know. I know
I
you can
get it.
feel me. And Danielle, I have to say your experience with sleep is even worse than mine. So
It's
like,
bad. It's real
yeah.
bad. Real,
But I
real
was
bad.
exhausted. I was exhausted. And then TMI alert. If you don't want to hear this part, fast forward. Um, we for sure thought that it was not going to happen easily the second time.
Mm.
And to be quite honest, I wasn't sure. I knew that I wanted to, but I was not ready. And then we went out for St. Patrick's Day, and then very a very short time after that, I was pregnant. So
So the luck of the Irish was with you.
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh, I like it.
hmm and I'll never forget
Oh,
like
wow.
finding out that I was pregnant. And the funniest part about it is when I got pregnant with Aaron, I was so, I didn't know I was pregnant yet. Or maybe, yeah, with Aaron, I did know. I'm sorry. With Aaron, I did know because we found out so early. And I was so hormonal and just like angry and snappy the first couple of weeks. Like you couldn't look at me without me just like, and I was so annoyed with myself because this is like a joyful thing, right? I've tried for so long, but my hormones would not allow me not to be nasty. Um, it's just the way it was. So then with Jace, we weren't trying, didn't have intervention. And I can remember being at work and somebody was like, "Are you sure you're not pregnant? Because you are nasty today." And I was like, whatever.
Oh.
I went
Yep.
home and took a test and I was pregnant.
So there's unfiltered Bridget when she's preggo.
Yeah. Yeah, I just like in a bad mood. You
Oh
know what I
God.
mean? Like just nobody look at me, nobody talk to me.
I feel like that all the time. I feel like that just about once a month.
That's not true. That is
Mm.
so funny. So
Mhm.
that's encouraging though for a lot of our listeners though, because if you struggle with your first, that does not indicate that you will also struggle with your second. So that is really encouraging. It doesn't mean that you won't, but
Right.
I
Right.
mean,
But it also, to add to that, I know people who had no problem getting pregnant the first time and now suffer from
Mhm.
secondary
great
infertility.
point. Great
So
point.
you just don't know. It's
No. It's such a personal thing. Everybody and every body is so different. You just don't know. And that's one of the biggest frustrating things about this whole process is you can talk to 100 different people and get literally 100 different stories on how their process went. And it's very frustrating. It's something we don't know if we're going to have a second kid or not, but we also don't know if we could if we tried.
sure.
It's such a frustrating thing.
Yeah. And I can remember being frustrated because Chris and I met when I was 16. Like I was very young.
Mhm.
And I have been on birth control for a very long time, not for the reasons you would think. I mean, to help with my
Right.
ridiculous periods, that whole thing.
Yes.
Um, but I can remember coming off of birth control and not getting pregnant for 2 years and thinking, I wasted how much money on birth control?
So true.
You were using it for other features.
Yes.
So, I mean, there was a benefit, but I
Yeah.
think probably that's a common thought of a lot of women
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure. I'm
because
absolutely
it
sure.
messes with your hormones. I mean,
Mhm.
it does a lot when people don't take it for anything other than birth control. It is money and it screws up your I can't take birth control because Amanda turns into crazy lady.
I can't picture that at all.
Right. Oh, ask Marcus. He's like, "I'll deal with 20 children to not deal with that."
Oh my
So,
gosh.
like, it's been decades since I've even attempted that pill form of a birth control
Mm,
because it makes me crazy.
Well, and that's so funny because again, I I know we talked about this when we were talking about our favorite things and you guys were talking about the salt cup.
Mhm.
And I have a Mirena specifically because I need my periods controlled and I don't think that I can live without it because it came to the point where I asked my OB at 30 years old for a hysterectomy because my periods are so awful
Yeah.
and we don't have to get into all of that, but it's bad. And so I begged him and he knew that we were done having children. And even at the age of 30, he considered doing that for me. I had to go through some other stuff first. And then he said, I really want you to try an IUD first because a lot of women find that they just don't even have periods. And luckily, that was my experience as
Mhm.
well. But yeah, I mean, I don't know that I can live without birth control unless I have a hysterectomy, honestly.
Well, it's because it's the
whew.
quality of life.
Yeah.
To think
Yes.
that so many women, I mean, there's the three of us and we all have horror stories of it.
Oh yeah.
So most women must, to have the quality of life, that your life revolves around having your period, is absolutely not how it was intended to be. Like, it's
Mhm.
just not. And for busy moms such as ourselves, we can't cater to our periods.
Ain't
Mm-mm.
We
nobody got
just
time for that.
can't. No one has time for that. So I hear you, Bridget, when you're saying that this could just be your long-term treatment until it's no longer needed. But
Mhm.
Yeah.
thankfully, there's something that works for you.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm
Oh,
super thankful
that
for
gives
it.
you that relief.
Yeah, I'm thankful for it, and I'm thankful that it doesn't affect me emotionally. Um,
Mm.
in that way, you know
Very
what I mean?
true.
It
Yeah.
don't have those kinds of side effects.
It
Uh,
doesn't make Bridget be Prego Bridget.
right. This is just my natural disposition.
Oh man.
That is so funny. So I guess I would ask both of you, what are some things that you would tell any of our listeners that are going through, infertility on any level of the spectrum? And whether they've told people, haven't told people, what are some of your, tips and tricks and suggestions to help their hearts and maybe their chances of getting maybe pregnant?
I guess I would say, just take your time, try to have fun with it as much as you can, try to relax and take that pressure off yourself
Mhm.
because at the end of the day, you can only control what you can control. And it's okay to have certain feelings about the whole process. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to vent, but maybe even more importantly than that is to try to open up even just a little bit. Find you don't have to
Mm.
tell the entire world like we're doing right now, but tell your core group of friends and family just to try to you need that support system behind you.
Yeah, I agree. One of the things I really loved, and I don't even know if this exists anymore, but when I was trying to get pregnant, I was on, so you know how they have the knot for weddings, the
Mhm.
knot.com, they have the bump for
Yes.
pregnancy.
Oh.
Mhm.
Don't even know if it exists anymore, but it
It
did
did
have,
when I was pregnant.
oh, okay. And there are so many boards on there. You can join. Um, there's just a ton, but one
Yep.
of them is specifically, or several of them, I'm sure, specifically for people trying to conceive.
Mhm.
And it's really nice to be amongst women who know
Mm.
what you're going through, and you can learn so much from them.
Mhm.
It also can be really heartbreaking because a lot of them have stories where they've gotten pregnant, they've lost that pregnancy.
Mm.
Um, so I would say enter into something like that with caution, maybe. But I found a lot of comfort there.
I did too.
And yeah, yeah. And I think, like Danielle said, I am such an open book that I couldn't stand people saying, "So when are you gonna have a baby?" So the second somebody would, I would say, "Oh, we're trying, but I am struggling with infertility." Because A, maybe that would stop them from asking somebody the next time.
Yes.
And
Yep.
B, I just was gonna be honest about it because I the next time I saw them, I didn't want to be asked the same question.
I didn't have that kind of nerve. I wish
Well,
that
I'm
I
a jerk.
did.
I'm a jerk. And I
You are not.
and I feel like I did it in a nice
Yeah,
way, but so many times, I mean, when we first got married, that was, you guys know, that's the first question people ask you.
every
So when are you
day.
gonna have a baby? When are you gonna have a baby?
Worse than that, me and my husband, this is an entirely different story that we don't need to get into, but me and my husband got married after being engaged for a month and then got married in 3 days. So
Mm-hmm.
we decided to get married and got married 3 days later. Talk about people asking if you're pregnant.
Ooh,
Everybody and their brother
Oh, I didn't even
thought
think
that we
about
were
that.
pregnant. My family
makes sense.
thought we were pregnant, everybody, and it had nothing to do with that. We had been together for 7 years prior to that. Like this it was just a happenstance. We don't need to get into the whole story, but it had nothing to do with pregnancy. I'll tell you that.
One
Yeah.
day we'll share that story. I have the
Yeah.
perfect episode to share that story with. Could you bless our viewers and our VIP group on Facebook with the picture that is my favorite from your wedding?
Of the squirrel?
Oh, I wasn't even going to say that, but yeah,
Oh, okay. Whoops.
you guys get
can
into
do
our
that.
VIP group because this is the funniest picture that could not have been staged.
Listen, I don't know if everybody believes in like signs or anything like that, but in that moment when this picture took place, we were like, we were supposed to be exactly where we are standing right now.
Yep.
This was it. This is the universe telling us that we did something right on schedule.
The picture will meet everyone's expectations as fabulous when they see it. But I do think your point about not asking people when you're going to have a child is super important, because what about even, and I don't know that our listeners are going to be here for this, but when I wasn't planning on having children, it
Correct.
was equally as insulting
I
to
believe it.
ask me, because then do I really want to say we don't want to have children? Because then the judgment.
Right?
Mhm.
How dare you?
How
What do
dare
you
you not
mean?
procreate? What?
And I know that I have been guilty of it. I know that
I'm- We're not perfect, of course.
No,
Ah.
but after my own experience, it's not a question I ask people.
Yep.
And even after having one child, asking people when's the
When
next
they're gonna have.
when's the next one. I have 2 boys. People would constantly say, "When are you going to try for a girl? When are you going to try for a girl?" It's absolutely none of your business. And I know people are so well-meaning, but you just don't know what's going on
Mhm.
within my body and within my marriage and within
Absolutely.
our family
Internally
planning.
or externally, you
Right.
know? And now that Owen's 14, people don't ask anymore.
Sure.
Which is really nice because they assume maybe there was a problem or, something's crazy.
Yeah.
Or they just know that you're crazy and that you can't do it with 2.
Yep.
I had a point. What was it? It's also that, my opinion on this is exactly what you guys have been saying. But if it doesn't affect your life, if I have a kid, I can, if my mom wants to ask, or his mom, my husband's mom wants to ask, something like that, I can let it roll off my back. But if it has nothing at all to do with your life, if you are never going to even meet
Mhm.
this child, why do you care?
Yeah.
Why does it matter?
Yeah. And I think it's just people don't think about that.
No.
And
You
most of the
you
time,
gotta cut them some slack.
for
People
sure.
people don't realize, but also I think it's a good learning opportunity for everybody to just know that you don't know everybody's story.
Yeah.
Absolutely. From 3 different moms, we're
Yes.
all saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Please don't ask.
Yes. And I have one more tip as
Ooh,
well
let's hear it.
about getting pregnant and things like that. It's educate yourself a little bit.
Mm.
There's a lot of tips and tricks and techniques and different
Mm,
apps that help you out there with like the calculating, really
sure.
get to know your own body, really get to know your own cycle. You can pick up on little cues and little twinges and stuff along the way. Really start to pay attention to that because a lot of that helps too.
For
Yeah.
sure. And
Yeah.
I think when someone's regular, that those
Mhm.
signs are maybe a little bit more
Yes.
obvious, where Bridgette, it was just like winging it probably for
Ugh.
you. It would
Well,
be hard for
yeah.
you to know your symptoms.
Yeah. And so there are things that you can do even if you're irregular. They're a little more difficult. I never had success tracking this kind of stuff. I think just because my body was that out of whack, but you can do your basal body temperature.
Yep. I did not do that, but I've
I
heard.
tried. It was not, I wasn't consistent and it wasn't consistent. So I didn't ever really do that. But check
I did the
that.
ovulation strips.
Yep. Ovulation strips. Same
That's
thing
true.
though.
Every single day.
Yeah.
Every single day.
Yeah.
Well, it probably, and I can't speak to this, it probably has to really bring the sexy out of being sexy, right?
I'll bet.
Oh,
I'll bet.
yeah.
It's very
Especially,
scheduled. What?
especially when this is so gross. I'm so sorry, you guys, but I'm going to say it.
Do it.
Especially when, at least this was the advice given to me by our specialist, once everything is done, you just have to lay there for a little while. There's no like getting up and going to get a snack or a drink or moving on with your life. You have to lay there with like your feet up against the wall.
There was
Yep,
a
hips in the
Roseanne
air.
episode about that.
Hips
Real.
in the air.
It's
Mhm.
real
You put a
thing.
couple of pillows under there. You just
That's
got to
real.
recline for a little bit. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
thought
there's
that
also
was
a
just
lot about
joke.
a lot about positioning.
Mm-hmm. Oh
That's
yeah.
important.
Educate
So
yourself, ladies.
yeah, we're not going to do this for you because it's a little not, it's a little R-rated, and
Yeah.
we're
This is a family show.
that's it.
Sure.
I don't know if it was today.
I know.
But it
Big
was it
disclaimer.
was about making a family.
Yeah, yeah.
But again,
I just
this is a topic that, see, we kind of just went into it like, is it too R-rated? Is it this? Like, no, we're talking about it anyway.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's important because just like there's a stigma around mental health and there's a
Yeah.
stigma around so many different things, there is a stigma, I think, within ourselves that we
Mhm.
can't or shouldn't talk about our struggles. Maybe it makes us less of a woman, maybe it makes
Yes.
us
Oh.
less of a wife, maybe it makes
Mm.
us unworthy of a child. I mean, these are all things that go through your mind when you're struggling. And so I think the more people who have experienced to talk about it, the less alone other people will feel.
I agree.
I can't speak to the feeling of how you guys have felt with infertility, but when you say feel less like a woman, I can only speak to, I remember when I had a C-section
Mm,
Mm.
and how that absolutely killed me because I thought everyone in my family had natural children, blah, 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 and I just felt like such less of a woman that I couldn't actually have birthed my own child because that's what women are supposed to do.
mhm.
Didn't help that he was 9'8", people. Like, he wasn't coming out. He wasn't coming out. So I feel
Big boy.
that feeling or
Yeah.
that shame almost, and I'm over it now, but in the beginning, that was really, really hard.
That's
Mhm.
sad.
Yeah, that's how I felt about breastfeeding.
I was just
Oh,
about to
great
say that.
point.
Yeah.
Oh,
Just
great
about
I
to
point.
say that.
it's just, and I'm going to say this, I know this is not what we were talking about, but I'm sure that there are other moms out there who felt this or will feel it. It did not feel natural to me. It did not feel
Mm,
like a loving, beautiful experience.
Hard.
It hurt.
Mhm.
It felt weird. It felt like I just hated everything about it. And I was stressed out and I was stressing out my babies and I didn't do it. I pumped for a little while just to get that initial couple weeks and then we went to formula.
And there is nothing wrong with that.
wow.
Nothing. A fed
Mm-mm.
baby is a happy baby. The end.
Yeah.
Well, and I love, again, the 3 of us are so different with this because I
Mhm.
basically breastfed without an issue.
Yeah.
It's very natural for me. The beginning, outside of that first few days, where
Yeah.
it's just hard, but because you're tired and stuff. But after that, it was a piece of cake for me. But then for you, like, you couldn't even get off the ground running with it.
Mm-mm.
Right, Bridget? And
Mm-mm.
then Danielle, like, I know you've really worked hard at it. There was a
Ooh.
science for you behind it. So
Yes.
be encouraged by all of our different stories because everyone's so different with that too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, the
Yeah.
pressure of that's a whole different story. Oh my goodness. But it all wraps around babies and it makes sense for this episode.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
any last minute tips or thoughts about infertility or being a woman in general or periods and all that good stuff?
I think just know that you're not alone if you're struggling and you're not alone if you didn't struggle, if it came supernaturally and you
Yep.
don't understand that's okay too. But if you are feeling it's so isolating.
Mm,
And so if you are feeling that way, it's totally natural and don't beat yourself up over the emotions that come along with infertility.
I love that.
Boom.
Mm,
Yep.
so good. And
Take
I
it
guess
easy. Be easy
I
on yourself.
I love
Mhm.
that. I love that. I think that's so big. And I guess this is the first time I've asked this, but if any of our listeners know of somebody who could be blessed by this message or encouraged with
Mm.
this message, please share it, whether it's by video or through the podcast link, because we talk about this stuff because we feel it's important to talk about it. We want
Mhm.
people to be encouraged. We love to hear ourselves speak, but we don't have to dive into these topics in order to do that. So when we're being vulnerable, we are doing it with great intent that we want to help people
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
get them, encouraged, so if everyone could do that for us, that would be fantastic. Mm,
I agree.
Final thoughts, ladies. Probably Bridgette. What are you going to
What's
take us
our
out with?
B?
The be what?
I think in this instance, be kind to yourself because
Mhm.
there's so much doubt and struggle and self-loathing that goes along with infertility. So just be
Yeah.
kind to yourself and to your body, and um, seek out help, seek out a support system. Like Danielle said, that's super important.
Hmm.
But overall, just be kind to yourself.
I love that.
I love that. I think that's the perfect way to end this podcast.
Okay.
Well, we will see you all next week. Thank you so much for tuning in and be kind to yourself.
Bye,
Bye,
guys.
everyone.